Most people never notice when someone is manipulating them. Real manipulation doesn't show up as anger or cruelty, not at first. It shows up as intensity, charm, and attention that feels almost unreal. Narcissists understand this better than anyone. They don't approach relationships with honesty. They approach them like a strategy. They study their partners, mirror their desires, and present themselves as exactly what the other person has been searching for. But behind that perfect image is a set of psychological tactics designed to pull their partner into a cycle of confusion, dependence, and emotional exhaustion. Once you understand these tactics, the illusion collapses, the patterns become unmistakable, and the control they once held begins to fade. These are 7 psychological tricks narcissists use in relationships and how to see them for what they truly are.
1. Love bombing. A narcissist's first move is intensity. They don't take their time and they don't build connections slowly. They overwhelm their partner with affection, admiration, attention, and constant communication. Every message, every call, every gesture is designed to make you feel chosen. They tell you you're different. They tell you they've never felt this way before. They make promises about the future long before they've learned anything real about you. It feels exciting. It feels rare. It feels like something powerful is happening. But love bombing isn't love, it's strategy. The goal is not connection, but access. The more special you feel, the more quickly you lower your guard, the more quickly you open your life, and the more easily they can attach themselves to your emotions, your routines, and your expectations. This stage always feels perfect. That's why people overlook the early signs. But the intensity isn't sustainable, and it was never meant to be. Because once they're certain you're attached to them, the shift begins.
2. It's evaluation. The moment a narcissist feels they have your loyalty, the tone changes. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just enough to unsettle you. The affection becomes inconsistent. The compliments fade. The interest becomes selective. A small joke about your habits appears. A critical comment about your choices slips in. A comparison to someone else is made. These moments seem minor, but they accumulate. What was once warmth becomes unpredictability. What was once admiration becomes subtle judgment. They start pointing out flaws you never considered flaws. They question your decisions in ways that make you doubt yourself. You adjust your behavior, hoping to regain the connection you had before. This is not an accident. It's the beginning of psychological imbalance. They want you unsure of yourself, because someone who doubts themselves becomes easier to influence. Devaluation is the quiet dismantling of your confidence, the slow erosion of your sense of worth, and it sets the stage for one of the most powerful forms of control they use.
3. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is the tactic narcissists rely on when they want to dominate not just your emotions, but your perception of reality itself. They deny things that clearly happened, they twist conversations into something unrecognizable, they accuse you of overreacting or being too sensitive whenever you express discomfort. You remember what they said, but they insist they never said it. You describe how something made you feel, but they claim you misunderstood. You point out a pattern and they accuse you of imagining things. As this continues, you begin doubting your memory, doubting your instincts, doubting your emotional reactions. Eventually, you start wondering if you're the problem. And that's exactly where they want you. A person who questions themselves is easier to silence. A person who doubts their own mind becomes reliant on the narcissist's version of events. And once they can control your perception of reality, everything else becomes easier to manipulate. Gaslighting creates internal confusion, and internal confusion becomes quiet dependence.
4. Silent punishment. Narcissists don't respond to conflict with honest communication. They respond with withdrawal. When they feel challenged, confronted, or exposed, they shut down. They go silent.
They disappear emotionally or physically just long enough to create panic, guilt, or self-blame in their partner. The silence isn't about needing space. It's about forcing you to chase them. You reach out. You apologize. You try to fix something that wasn't your fault to begin with. This is punishment without words. By withholding communication, affection, and presence, they teach you that disagreeing with them leads to emotional abandonment. Over time, you speak less, you challenge less, you shrink parts of yourself to avoid triggering the silence again. It's control through absence, and it is one of the most effective forms of emotional conditioning.
5. Hot-cold control. A narcissist's behavior is never steady. Their emotional energy switches without warning. One day, they're kind, warm, and affectionate, the version of them you fell for. The next day, they're distant, irritated, or uninterested. This inconsistency creates a psychological chase. You keep trying to get back the version of them who showed up in the beginning, the version who made you feel valued. But that version was never stable. It was never consistent. It was never real. The hot-cold cycle keeps your nervous system in constant uncertainty. Warm days make you hopeful. Cold days make you anxious. You start believing that if you just behave a certain way, the warmth will return. This is how emotional dependence forms, not through constant kindness, but through unpredictable reinforcement. A pattern that pulls you deeper while convincing you that escaping might mean losing the rare moments of affection that still appear from time to time.
6. Identity erosion. Narcissists don't just manipulate emotions, they slowly reshape identity. They influence the way you see yourself, the way you make decisions, the habits you follow, and the connections you maintain. They criticize your interests, they question your friendships, they mock your dreams or call them unrealistic. They guilt-trip you for prioritizing anything other than them. Over time, you begin abandoning pieces of yourself. Hobbies disappear, friendships fade, boundaries weaken, confidence slips. You become more isolated, more self-doubting, and more dependent on their approval. This erosion is not dramatic. It's gradual. Small comments, small reactions, small judgments, but all pointed in one direction, reducing your inner strength until you rely on them emotionally, socially, and mentally. They want to become the center of your world, and the more you lose yourself, the easier that becomes.
7. Trauma bonding. The final tactic is the most powerful and the most dangerous. Trauma bonding happens when moments of affection and moments of pain come from the same person. The same person who hurts you is the same person who comforts you. The same person who breaks you down is the same person who lifts you up. This cycle creates a deep emotional attachment. Your nervous system becomes conditioned to expect both pain and relief from the same source. Your mind becomes focused on winning back the positive moments even when the negative ones far outweigh them. A trauma bond feels like love, but it is built on instability, fear, hope, and emotional tension. It keeps people in relationships long after the happiness is gone, not because they want the pain, because they're still chasing the small moments of kindness that feel rare and powerful. This bond can become so strong that leaving feels impossible, even when the relationship is clearly damaging. But once you understand what's happening, the spell weakens. Awareness breaks the illusion.
Narcissists don't gain control through strength. They gain it through psychological pressure, delivered in ways that feel emotional, romantic, or even loving at first. Love bombing draws you in. Devaluation creates insecurity. Gaslighting shapes your reality. Silence punishes you. Hot-cold cycles keep you chasing connection. Identity erosion weakens your sense of self. And trauma bonding locks the entire cycle in place. But once the pattern becomes visible, it loses its power. The moment you can name what's happening, you begin to detach from it. Because manipulation thrives on confusion, and clarity is the first step to freedom.
If you've ever experienced any of these tactics, which one was the hardest to recognize at first? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone who's still trying to understand theirs. If you found this valuable, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more psychological breakdowns just like this.